There's a familiar moment that rarely makes it into medical conversations. It happens in the kitchen, or the grocery store aisle, or late at night scrolling on a phone. You're not sick enough to be hospitalized, but you're not well. Your digestion feels off. Your energy doesn't return like it used to. Your weight shifts without permission. Your joints ache. Your blood sugar flirts with the edge. Your cholesterol numbers come back concerning but not alarming. And the advice you hear is oddly thin. Watch it, cut back, exercise more, come back in 6 months. No one explains what watch it actually means. No one tells you how to feel better now. Not perfectly, just better. And so you start asking quieter questions. Is my body becoming more acidic, more inflamed, more fragile with age? Why do simple foods suddenly bother me? Why does it feel like my system is clogged, sluggish, overwhelmed? This is the space where folk wisdom, internet trends, and frustration collide. Somewhere in that collision, one substance keeps resurfacing. Not flashy, not patented, not new. Apple cider vinegar. People swear by it, doctors roll their eyes, friends warn you off it. And still, the question lingers. Why does this keep coming up? To understand that, you have to step back, not into science jargon, but into history and habit. Long before nutrition labels and supplements, people thought in simpler terms. They talked about balance, about stagnation, about the body needing help to move things along. Digestion was central. Elimination mattered. Fermentation wasn't trendy. It was practical. In that older worldview, discomfort wasn't just pain, it was a sign of imbalance. That's the mental terrain behind a book called Apple Cider Vinegar by Patricia and Paul Bragg, not as a solution, not as a cure, but as a philosophy disguised as a pantry item. The Braggs weren't writing for people chasing biohacks. They were writing for people who felt their bodies drifting away from them. The book frames modern illness as something that doesn't always arrive suddenly. It accumulates. Too much processed food, too little fiber, too much sitting, too little bitterness, acidity, and roughage, the things older diets relied on to wake the body up. In this telling, apple cider vinegar isn't magic. It's a signal, a sharp taste that reminds digestion to do its job, a daily interruption to monotony, a ritual that forces attention. For overwhelmed readers, this is often the emotional entry point, because many people aren't asking, how do I live forever? They're asking, why do I feel heavier, slower, foggier than I should? The book speaks in the language of cleansing, a word that makes modern audiences nervous, and rightly so. But beneath that language is a more grounded idea, that the body thrives on movement, not just exercise, but internal movement, regular digestion, regular elimination, metabolic flexibility. When those rhythms stall, discomfort follows. The Braggs argue that much of what people label as aging is actually accumulation, not damage alone, but buildup. This idea resonates because it mirrors lived experience. People notice they don't tolerate sugar the same way, that heavy meals linger, that constipation, reflux, bloating, and fatigue start traveling together. The book offers apple cider vinegar as one tool among many, a way to gently push the system back toward activity. Again, this is not a medical prescription, and the book doesn't always draw lines modern readers would want clearly drawn. But emotionally, it does something important. It reframes health not as a switch, on or off, but as a direction. Are you moving toward vitality or away from it? The Braggs place enormous emphasis on personal responsibility, sometimes to a fault. Their tone can feel moralistic, but for readers who feel dismissed by quick clinical visits, this insistence can land as empowering. Because someone is finally saying, your daily choices matter, your digestion matters, your habits matter, not in a shaming way, but in a causal way. The book also reflects an older distrust of modern convenience foods, highly processed, stripped of fiber, designed for shelf life, not gut life. Readers who feel confused by contradictory nutrition headlines often find relief here, not because the answers are precise, but because the framework is coherent. Eat closer to whole foods. Favor simplicity. Use traditional tools to support digestion. Apple cider vinegar becomes symbolic, a stand-in for sourness, bitterness, and restraint, flavors largely engineered out of modern diets. And that symbolism is part of why the book endures, because people aren't really chasing vinegar. They're chasing a sense that their body isn't quietly rotting from the inside. They're chasing lightness, regularity, clarity. They're chasing the feeling of being clean, not morally, but internally. Of course, the danger comes when metaphor turns into belief, when people expect one substance to undo years of damage. The book doesn't always protect readers from that leap, and that's where discernment matters. Apple cider vinegar works best when read as a mindset, not a mandate, a reminder that health is often less about adding something new and more about restoring forgotten rhythms. Sour before sweet, simple before complex, daily care before crisis response. The reason this book still circulates isn't because it holds secret knowledge. It's because it speaks to a modern exhaustion. The exhaustion of feeling like your body is failing you, slowly, ambiguously, while no one takes responsibility for explaining why. In its best moments, the book gives readers permission to experiment thoughtfully, to observe, to pay attention. Not, does this cure me, but does this help me feel more like myself? That shift is subtle, but powerful. And in a health culture obsessed with extremes, superfoods or surrender, that middle ground matters. You don't need to worship apple cider vinegar. You don't need to reject it either. What the Braggs really offer is a question disguised as advice. Are you supporting your body's basic processes or overwhelming them? That question lingers long after the last page. And for many people, that's enough to begin again.